Hey, what's going on, everyone in YouTube land? New folks, returning subscribers. Finally, it's time for another ranking video, and this time it's going to be Daft Punk, which I think I've been wanting to do a Daft Punk ranking video since that epilogue dropped, and that was what, a couple years ago already. And then when the Random Access Memories 10th anniversary was announced, I was like, oh, well, now's the time to do it. So, so in true Andy fashion, here it is weeks late. But anyway, so we're gonna just do the basic discography here, and yeah, not the remixes, because they did the Tron, and I almost bought it too. The Tron soundtrack remixes and that. So we're not going to do that. We're just doing 7 records, so the studio albums, and there's of course the soundtrack record in there. But number 7 is going to be the third proper studio album, and oh, I should say I'm doing the live ones too. That's how we got up to 7. So this is Human After All. This hit when I was still in high school, and everyone was still kind of riding off the high of Discovery, and a lot of people were, you know, I'd say a lot of people were casual Daft Punk fans, but at the same time, a lot of us did have a CD copy of Discovery, and I remember people talking about the music video for Around the World from the first LP. But a lot of us liked Discovery, and people like me and some of my core friends loved it. And there was the video that went along with it, Interstellar 5555, and that kind of added to the whole effect and the whole appeal of the album. This one dropped, and it's just very cold and clinical and robotic, and it's supposed to be. It's Human After All, but it's all about robots, and robots kind of taking over. But there's some human emotion in it, especially in Make Love Emotion, the last song. Make Love, like I said, track 5, and Steam Machine. But most of it is very like I said, very calculated, clinical, very robotic. That's the whole point. But then there's, humans beneath, human emotions beneath and underneath. And I think what really brings the concept of the album home much better than the record itself is the film that went with it, Electrama. Well, I hope that's how you pronounce it. I've seen it a few times. And I remember playing this with not the record, this is the record. I remember playing it with the film on. So I put the film on mute and put the album on, and of course you have to play it twice because it's a long movie, and the final sequence is like a Stanley Kubrick thing. Like, it just goes on forever, but the payoff is huge. At least if you get the implication, I guess. It's very arty, and it's a hard movie to sell to the kids. I'm not sure how well it did. I would love to own a copy, but I think it's a lot of money. But really, for me, that lifts this album more than just putting it on and listening to it front to back, because as good as some of this material is, I do find some of it a little bit grating, I must say. And as much as I like the title track, at least elements of the title track, I would admit that I like some of the remixes that came out for it even better. The Primetime of Your Life is good at kind of starting off slow and creepy, and then just getting more and more kind of horrific as it goes on, and it's used to quite a devastating effect. Robot Rock, of course, is, well, at the time Technologic was the big hit because it was in a lot of annoying iPod commercials, and it's probably the only it is the only Daft Punk song on a studio album that I just don't like. In fact, I can't stand it. I just don't like the voice, and I really don't like the background, like, yes, like, it's just a me problem, because I just find it super annoying. Like, I find it as annoying as listening to Crazy Frog, but most of the material here is good. It's just it's Daft Punk. So is it Daft Punk good? But it works really well with the DVD on, and you're not supposed to listen to the record, but a lot of fans have said, oh, they kind of sync up, and it's kind of one of those Wizard of Oz Dark Side of the Moon things where it's like, does it though? But that's okay, because it's a fun way to experience that movie. I would definitely watch it how it's intended to be watched first, because you got some great choices, like Brian Eno's In Dark Trees is in there, Todd Rundgren's in there. Yeah, there's some amazing music, like everything they picked actually. Uh, Curtis Mayfield is in there, I believe. Billy Jack. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's very kind of heavy-handed. It's not. It's definitely not a fun listen, but it's not supposed to be. Robot Rock, if you kind of take that off and just play it on its own, that's a pretty fun song. But they're not gonna win over any new fans with that, and I definitely wouldn't start with that one. This is number. Oh no, number six. I don't have anything to show because I didn't buy it. It's a little much considering. Well, actually, I haven't seen the movie yet, but Tron Legacy. So I've listened to the soundtrack, and I would like to add it and complete the collection for sure. But it's going to be number six. I can definitely see a lot of these songs working with the movie because I've seen clips of the movie, and of course, Derezzed was released as a single, and that's probably one of the best things on the record. But yeah, I mean, it's instrumental Daft Punk, which is good because they have great instrumental songs as well as vocal tracks. But yeah, soundtracks are hard to put in with studio fare and live fare because it would be like doing Mark Knopfler's records, and you'd have to put in the Cal soundtrack and the Princess Bride and Local Hero and all that, and they hit different than the studio ones, but they wouldn't all be on the bottom because some of them work really well as kind of their own thing and their own album. But I keep saying one of these days I got to see that Tron movie. I don't know if it's just a Disney Plus thing now, and now there is going to be a Tron 3 with Jared Leto, and a lot of people are going boo. But I'll give it a chance. I mean, he was in the Blade Runner 2049, and that was an incredible movie. So, you never know, right? But yeah, I have to educate myself on Tron. I'm still educating myself on certain aspects of cinema because I've seen a lot of great stuff, and there's a lot of stuff I've missed. But yeah, Tron is definitely something that I need to suss out, and I need to see the Daft Punk songs in context of the movie instead of just confided is, no, instead of just separated out on its own. I don't think confided is the right word. I don't think I showed the gatefold to that. So if, a lot of these were just reissued, so I mean, it's pretty blank and basic, and but I actually think the cover is, in simplicity it works, and that Daft Punk's whole aesthetic is simplicity, at least with their album art, not with the music. It's kind of maximalist, and the videos are always just crazy. So I don't know why I'm unfolding it first before showing what it is, but this is going to be number 5, and this is way, way low for a lot of people because I know a lot of people, this is like their favorite thing Daft Punk ever did. And I get it. I mean, it's amazing. I think the one thing is probably the Human After All tracks. That's the one thing. But, even Technologic, which, as I said, I find annoying and don't like, even hearing it, because all the tracks get remixed and they get kind of put into each other, and I find that very interesting, and it really elevates a lot of this material. Steam Machine is on here, Technologic, like I said, Television Rules the Nation, Robot Rock, Human After All, the song, of course, and Prime Time of Your Life. All those Human After All tracks are on here, and the way they're mixed into the old material is just absolutely stellar. I mean, Daft Punk are as good remixers as they are samplers, and we know that they're out of this world great samplers. and then you have a Busta Rhymes song that gets put in here, and lots of stuff from Homework, very heavy on Discovery, of course, as it should be. Yeah, and a few there's a couple like non-album tracks that, but having crescendos and hearing the crowd just go wild during that, and during the hits that they know, like Around the World, like it must have been absolutely incredible and godlike to see this band, or duo, I guess, during this time, during this tour. Absolutely stellar. What a great live, one of the best live albums ever, but I'm only putting it up at number 5. So that just shows you how incredible and trailblazing all these other records are. Now, maybe it should be ahead of this one, but this one just brings me so much nostalgia. Yeah, I had this. Well, I have it on CD. I had an old CD that didn't have a case because I found it on a bus, and I remember it was just it was my companion for that night and into that week, like, this old abandoned CD, and it kind of, I think it was very instrumental in shaping, a lot of influences, like a lot of things that I would do that week and then during my life, and it really influenced me in a lot of ways. So that's probably why it's a little higher. And I love the gatefold. I mean, you have The Who and Beach Boys and Frampton and Led Zepp and Darlin'. That's a little callback to their the first group. Were they in it together, or was that just Thomas? I can't remember. Now that I should have looked up before the video. But Andy Gibb, of course. But it's probably not as consistent, and it's not as consistent as the couple coming up for the studio fair. But I had to rank it pretty high. It's got some of my favorite stuff ever, and I mean, the videos that came with this era are absolutely incredible. Even though they do this thing that I don't usually like, and they talk over the music, that used to always bug me in videos, because it's like, shut up, I want to hear the songs from these masters at work. And, you could just listen to the record. It's like, well, no one's forcing you to watch the video. But yeah, at the time it's like, the funk, like, why is that dog and the girl talking over the music? Like, and then it dawned on me, in the era of YouTube, it's like, wow, like, that is really, there's a reason why that video was played over and over and over again. Like, that is an amazing music video. And even better is Revolution 909 and Burnin', because the editing on those two videos, I'm not sure if those are done by the same director, but those are two of the best videos of all time because of the editing. They're amazing, and fresh I really like too. Around the World is great, and that's the one everyone talks about because of the costumes and the choreography. And like those other 4 I mentioned, it's a 10 out of 10, but I think it's my least favorite out of those 5 videos. But, I mean, they're all on the level, so it really doesn't matter. They're all on this higher plane than, 99.9% of the videos that have been produced over the decades. And, this just established them as a force to be reckoned with. This was a very influential record, and they wrote and produced it. Everything's Thomas and Guy Manuel, and I always think this came out in 97, but it's 96, so it took 5 years for the follow-up to come out. And I mean, it's just an incredible, like, the packaging, and people that go, oh, we've never, or here's Daft Punk without their helmets on the internet. Oh my God, they appeared without their helmets. And it's like, well, they weren't really hiding ever. Like, there they are again. They just became known as the robots and everything. But what a great set this is. Yeah, it's just incredible. Anyway, I'll put that away later. Number 3 we're at. Okay, so this is Alive 1997. And so this followed up the first record, Homework, that we just talked about. And on Spotify, it's just one whole track if you choose to play it. Yeah, the stickers are in here. Usually I use stickers, like I used to put them on my laptop when I had one, and I would put them on my phone and my receiver and stuff like that, but these are too good to even use. But yeah, and there's a Darlin one in the front there. And by the front, I mean the center. But yeah, this is just a great mix of, Homework and Homework era tunes, and they sound really good live. And I said Alive 2007 is one of the best live records ever, so obviously this one is too. I mean, I can't think of any other band that has two flawless live albums. Though Talking Heads is putting out Stop Making Sense finally in its complete glory instead of the very truncated one that came out in the 80s, which misses a ton of tracks that are in the concert film rather. So that's the one group that might give Daft Punk a run for their money. But even a lot of my favorite bands, it's like a lot of them have like one really good live album and the others are all a little lesser. But Daft Punk have two perfect live albums. Let's think about that. And what other electronic artist is so good that, they release their live albums in physical form and people still care about them and talk about them and they're sought after? Like, even a lot of the influential ones don't have it. But it's just a great mix of Homework era, um, you know, album tracks and single tracks, and it works really well. Number 2 is Random Access Memories, and you can just take what Pitchfork said about it and just shove that in the garbage can, because the fact that they say the first, what was it, 20 minutes or half an hour is slow, or this album's not as good as you remember it 10 years ago, that is a crock of shit. I mean, this is one of the best albums ever. This is one of the best albums that came out in 2013 for sure. And it's incredibly influential. I'm not sure if it's quite as influential as their first couple records, because it does lean on the past a little bit more, and disco and, established sounds from the 70s, mostly the 70s. But from a production standpoint and just the performances they get on here and the guests, the way the guests are all implemented is incredible. I mean, how can you say the first 3 or 4 tracks are not as good as you remember, or it's a slow burn, or it's backloaded? I hadn't heard anyone say that before, and then when Pitchfork, I don't want to keep shitting on Pitchfork or whatever, but I guess it's that one reviewer that I have a problem with. But it's like, when you have Give Life Back to Music opening the record, that song's incredible. And I love how it kind of marries the human after all kind of aspect with something more human. And especially when you get the sample of, I think it's kids playing at a playground, but I'm not sure. I never really figured it out. It sounds like joyous laughter and kids playing maybe on a schoolyard or something. And the point in the music where that comes in, it's like, geez, wow. I remember listening to that for the first time and being like, holy man. And then The Game of Love is a bit more of a slow burn, and I remember the first time listening to the record, it's like, wow, they took all the momentum from the first track and just lost it instantly. But then with patience and re-listens, it's like, nah, man, this is really great too. And they're on a high, and then they follow that up with Giorgio by Moroder, which is about Giorgio Moroder, or Georgie, whatever you want to call him, but, that famous composer, producer. I mean, he did the Midnight Express soundtrack and a lot of other movies, and actually one I just watched recently that was a pleasant surprise called Foxes. But yeah, he did a lot of movie soundtracks, and he was in some groups, and I think for the impatient, people are like, what's the song where the guy talks and it takes forever for the music to kick in? But that's just the journey. The song is a little mini epic, and it's a journey, and it is one of the best things that Daft Punk have ever done. I love this song. I mean, there's so many 5 out of 5 star songs on this album, but that might be my favorite. And he's just talking about how he just lived in a little village and knew right away he wanted to be like a rock star, and just the challenges there. And it starts off very, kind of like, oh yeah, like a lot of people have this story. And then those drums come kicking in, and I don't know, it's just, there's something really incredible about it and kind of humbling about the track. Um, Within is great. Instant Crush with Julian Casablancas from The Strokes. That one took me a long time to get into, and now it's like, wow, this is incredible. Lose Yourself to Dance is another highlight with Pharrell on vocals. Touch, which of course got dusted off for that epilogue video, and there's a different version of it which plays in the video and is finally commercially available as of a month or two ago because of the reissue of Random Access Memories. And I gotta say, that's probably the only reason why I would buy the reissue, because I really like that version. Though I remember it cuts off early, which is kind of annoying. I wish they made a more natural cutoff point, but maybe that's intentional, because Daft Punk just kind of ended like that. Like, it was rumored that they were doing a double album and then they were going to come back and there'd be a tour, and then they just disbanded, and then years later said it was because of how scary AI is and that's taken over and that. And it's like, well, yeah, that's always been a scary prospect, though. In fact, what you could do is you could write an album to kind of battle that. Like, the Daft Punk robots get back at other AI, or they help the humans out or something like that. Like, I wouldn't throw in the towel because of that, because I agree that AI is scary and I don't like AI, and I try to do everything for myself and not rely on, like, asking a machine to do it. You can't really get away with it, but you can in your home life, and I just, because that scares me to death. I can't stand that kind of stuff. Um, but I think that was an opportunity to make some more music and maybe another film and a whole conceptual album that, yeah, like I said, it could be about the robots battling the AI. Like, the robots are like, okay, humans, we're on your side. Or they could have done a lot of things with it, like a cautionary tale, or anyway, I mean, this isn't a video about brainstorming what Daft Punk should have done, but that would have been very interesting. Get Lucky's the pop hit. Beyond Motherboard. The instrumentals on here are absolutely incredible. Fragments of Time. Doing It Right with my man Panda Bear. Yeah, he really brings his personality to it. They really let their guests shine. They don't kind of fall into, like, ho hum, Daft Punk with another singer that we all recognize. It's like, no, these guys really make it their own and help Daft Punk, and Daft Punk help them, and it's incredible what these guys do together. And then it ends with Contact, which none of us knew at the time, but it was going to be the last new thing we'd ever hear from the group, which is pretty devastating if you think about it. And then number one, to not too many people's surprise, but if you have a different number one, let me know, because I always find that interesting. But Discovery, and this came out in '01. Yep. Or was it 2000? No, it was '01. And with One More Time as the single, one of the catchiest songs of all time. Great club song, great everything song, great chilling song, great pick-me-up. You just get dopamine running through you just listening to it. I mean, it's an incredible song. It had a great video. I remember seeing the video, and then when it ends, you're kind of like, huh, what a cliffhanger. And then it's like, oh, Aerodynamic follows it up. Cool. And then it's like Digital Love. And then what? They did a whole film to go with the album? And some people go, well, some songs go together with the visuals more than others, but I mean, that's one of my favorites. I love it. Be cool, phone. Be cool. Yeah, so Crescendos, yeah, I mean, it's made up of a lot of instrumentals. You get the 4 big vocal songs out of the way. Well, 3 of them, because Aerodynamic isn't vocals. But you get 3 of the three of the big vocal songs out of the way, the four singles, big singles out of the way, and then but they're vocals, and you know what, the sampling on this record, and I'd love to have that as a poster. That's incredible. The sampling on this record is just absolutely out of this world. Like they sample ELO and they sample Edwin Berg's song, of course, for Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger, which Kanye would sample years later. And yeah, there's quite a few ELO samples. There's some incredible, 70s rock samples on here. And some of the songs are just samples upon samples. Face to Face is absolutely incredible. I mean, yeah, their sample game is on point. I mean, this is one of the most inventive albums, and it's just a touchstone of the genre. And you could say that for most of Daft Punk, but I mean, how they were on the forefront of the new styles coming up, and they really had a threshold on the sounds that were going to be new. Like if you bought the Daft Punk album when it came out, whether it was this one or the one prior, you were listening to the future of electronic music. You were listening to where it was going to go. And, there were so many albums and songs after Homework that kind of used that as a basis. And then when this came out, it was the same thing. And, it set the club circuit on fire, but it also had producers and groups and artists that were all trying to do Daft Punk as well, and they just became one of the most innovative, influential duos that has ever existed in electronic or all of music. And I think this is the one to this or Random Access are not just my two favorites, but I think they're the best two to give to someone that is like, oh, Daft Punk, I don't know them that well, or I only know some hits. What album should I check out? Whereas Homework is, another favorite of mine, but I think a lot of people would get stuck on, certain tracks. But this one's kind of just a journey front to back, and just take the journey. I mean, it's going to knock you out. It's an amazing journey, and just like the duo's career. So, rest in power, Daft Punk. What they left for the world is absolutely amazing. I mean, I wish they did at least one more record, but we can't always get what we want. And I know that Thomas has his solo career. In fact, he just put out an album. And I'm not sure what Guy Manuel is doing. I called him Guy earlier. Is it Guy or Guy? I assume because he's French, it's probably Guy. But anyway, when these bands break up, you gotta just enjoy what they actually did for us, and instead of thinking what could have been. But that's a very interesting thing. And my theory on what the next LP proper could have been, I'm going to kind of think about that a little bit more. Anyway, sound off in the comments. Let me know what your favorite Daft Punk albums are, or you can just order them yourself. And also, what are some of your favorite tracks? I mean, there's no wrong answers. Despite what some people in the comments tell me, you're so wrong. Why would you pick this over this? It's like, well, I'm not saying it's the best or worst. I'm just saying it's my personal favorites, right? So yeah. Peace out, everybody. Be good to one another. Whether it's out on the streets or in the comment section of YouTube, because it's a toxic world and it's a toxic place. So let's keep it a little bit more light. Anyway, on that note, enjoy your day, enjoy your summer, and we'll see you in another video. Thanks so much.